We're going to skip a little bit. We're in still Likutay around Tinyana. We're going to go down to, we're going to continue to Torah Tes. A little bit smaller Torahs. I think it'll be a little bit easier to, for now, to put it together. Instead of a long shiurim that will take like 5 or 6 or more shiurim to finish these big Torahs that we have before. And maybe later we'll get back to them. Okay, so Torah Tes in Likutay around Tinyana. El asher yihye shama haruach laleches yilchu. This is the pasuk the Rebbe starts with. Isa b'tikunei zor. The tikunei zor says, "Kulu arkin deliba misnagin basa rucha." All of the valves or the veins of the heart, they go after the ruach. They go in accordance with the ruach. Hado dechsiv, and this is what it says. There's a continuation still of the Zohar. El asher yihye ruach laleches yilchu, which is the pasuk the Rebbe is bringing. Now the Rebbe is going to explain this Zohar. This ruach is referring to the ruach that comes out of the lungs. Kanfei reah. Because if it weren't for the lungs, the kanfei reah, which is the wings of the lungs, then which is really it's referring to the lungs. Then the heat of the heart would burn up the whole body. The lungs, the ventilation system is not just to bring in air and to give oxygen in your blood, but it's also to cool down your body. So, if we didn't have this cooling system, then the heart would get so much heat that it would heat up. Also in a car we have fans and things like that, so Hashem made our body, Baruch Hashem, with fans. Now, through the ruach that comes on the wind or the breath, the air that a person takes into his lungs, or the air in general, a candle is lit and a candle is put out. Kanir b'chush, as we see in reality, sometimes the wind can blow out a candle. So we see the light, the fire could be extinguished through too much wind, too much air. We're going to connect this soon to the wind or the air inside a person's lungs. Sometimes a light can be lit through wind, through breath, or through wind that is blown on it. Now, sometimes we see like we have a coal, or if you have a person has makes a barbecue. So if you fan the barbecue really hard, so you can actually get the coals, which don't have any fire, which is red, to catch on fire, to actually make a flame. So now he's explaining he's continuing to explain how fire sometimes gets extinguished. Some ashes fall into the candle. Long old candles, they didn't have such good wicks, and you could see this very much in old candles. That when you have a long candle that burns, what happens is the wick kind of just peels over, folds over, and there's like ashes of the old wick. If it's a long wick, they get stuck, and it actually the fire doesn't burn so well. So if you make a wick from cotton or from other things like that, if you make it just by yourself, and you don't make it the fancy way that they make most of the good wicks nowadays, then what happens is that there's ashes that are attached to this wick, and the fire becomes extinguished through these ashes. And it actually separates the parts of the fire that are on this fire, and you could see this a lot of times when this wick, let's say for example, could be other types of ashes, when the wick is burning and the ashes of the wick attach itself to the wick, so you see the fire could sometimes stick out in different places and doesn't really light up all the wick on all sides because there's these ashes that are stuck to it. And the fire or the flame cannot light properly at that point. When it has a furious on it, or when it has ashes on it. And therefore when a person blows on it, as a haruach minapeach min haner ha-furious, So sometimes a person could use breath, could use wind to blow on the ashes and blow the ashes off, and the ashes, for example, of a candle, would fall down, and that the flame would go back to its strong point because it's not being covered by these ashes. Ashes is after wood already burns, you have ashes. So if you take these ashes, you can actually put out a fire with it, possibly, because the ashes are not so quick to catch on fire. And also sometimes the wind, so here we see wind can actually light up fire. And now also we see that wind can put out fire. If a person blows too hard on a candle, then what he does is he takes the fire and he separates it from the candle, and there's no fire on the candle anymore, and then the fire also extinguishes, and you don't have any fire anymore on the candle. The candle extinguishes. Now, that's all science, so to speak. Now we're going to explain how this relates directly to Ruchnius and Tzaddikim on a global level, Tzaddikim and Klaisol, and on a personal level, how it works within a person inside of himself. Most of the Torahs of the Rebbe are broken down to at least into these two categories. And if they aren't, then a person could break them down to these two categories: how the world works in general, and how a person inside of that world is like a microcosm of that big world. So here we're going to see how the Manhigim Ador and Klaisol, how they relate to each other, and the different aspects of Klaisol relate to each other, and how that also is found inside every single person. Okay, Manhigim Ador hem bechinas ruach, k'mo shekasuv ish asher ruach bo, she'yodeh lalach neged rucho shel kol echad v'echad. Now, the Manhigim Ador, the Tzaddikim of the generation, the leaders of the generation, they are the Bechina, they're like the wind, they're like the Ruach. And why? We even have a pasuk that shows that they are the ones that know how to go with the spirit, the wind. The wind is called spirit, the spirit of each person. So they can go with the ruach of each person, and they know the ruach of the generation, and they can strengthen the people in the right way and give them the proper spirit for serving Hashem, and they can do these things, and therefore they're called ruach. They're called the ruach of the world, so to speak. The Yisrael, and the Yisrael, the Klal Yisrael, the rest of Klal Yisrael, is the concept of the heart. Ki Yisrael hem liba de kol ama, because Yisrael is the heart of the whole world. If you take the whole world and you see the center and the heart of the whole world is the Jewish people. We need the leaders of the generation to blow and to blow their wind, or their spirit, or the air. This is in a physical sense. More obviously, we're not talking. They don't need to physically blow on Klal Yisrael, but they need to give of their spirit to Klal Yisrael. Shem Liba D'Alma, which we are the heart of the world, the rest of Klal Yisrael. To get rid of these ashes which have attached themselves to Klal Yisrael. Now, what is these ashes? Basically, we're saying that the Klal Yisrael, the tzaddikim have a tafkid, purpose, and that one of them is to rid us of the ashes that have attached themselves to us. What are the ashes? Ashes, dahainu ma'ashchosh nofal alehem. Now these ashes are the sadness that attaches themselves to the Jewish people, and this sadness stops a person from actually being inflamed and being fired up to serve Hashem. That's one aspect that tzaddikim need to remove these ashes which are attached to us, and stop us from being able to light up to Hashem. And also, there's another aspect. Gam yesh rishayim shem bechinas ervav, u'kshem noflim al halev danu al Yisrael, gam hem bechinas afurios. There are also rishayim that in the Klal Yisrael, if you take Klal Yisrael as a whole, as a big entity, so you'll see the two types of people. There's tzaddikim and rishayim, and of the rishayim, which are the bechin of ervav, they themselves have the tumah of the rest of the world involved, attached inside of them. And when they fall and they attach themselves and they connect themselves to Klal Yisrael, they're inside Klal Yisrael, and they connect themselves to Klal Yisrael. So they are also like the ashes that stop the rest of Klal Yisrael, like Klal Yisrael as a whole, from lighting up. So on a personal level, a person has sadness, and that sadness inside of his heart, if a person has sadness, that sadness inside of his heart stops him from serving Hashem. And on a very global way of looking at things, we have the Klal Yisrael in general also are supposed to serve Hashem like a fire. And unfortunately, when the Erev Rav is mixed up inside of us, then we can't serve Hashem. We can't serve Hashem properly. We can't fire ourselves up to serve Hashem. And then the Erev Rav themselves have to be removed through the Tzedikei Ador. They blow on the ashes, so to speak, and they push the ashes aside. And therefore we need the tzaddikim of the generation to blow the ashes off of the heart, from each one of the people of Klal Yisrael. Then, just like the candle, we said that the fire on the candle, when there's ashes on it, so the fire comes out in separate places, in separate directions. So when a person blows on the ashes or knocks off the ashes, here we're talking about blowing on it, so then what happens is the fire becomes one, unified, a fire again. So also when the tzaddikim, when they blow off the sadness or the Erev Rav from us, from Klal Yisrael, then the Klal Yisrael as a whole can actually attach themselves to each other. When a person's happy, he's much more easy to have Avos Yisrael, to be attached to other Jews. And when the Erev Rav is not between us, so we don't have the blocking of the Erev Rav that block us from having proper Avos Chavim, Avos Yisrael. So then all of the Jews can attach themselves together and become one flame, and serve Hashem. Serve Hashem like one flame. And then the Klal Yisrael can attach themselves together, and it might actually properly take on the Bechinas Leiv, a healthy, happy, strong heart. And each one of the Jewish people also become a Bechina Leiv Lamakom, a heart for the Shechina, because there needs to be there Bechinas Leiv, and then we all light ourselves up and we all come back to fire ourselves up to serving Hashem, as we mentioned above. However, sometimes when there's too much wind, when there's an evil wind, an evil force, then there's a tremendous amount of excitement, tremendous amount of fire, way more than is appropriate, way more than there should be. Sorry, this is everything we said last hour was about fire. If a person, let's say, is making a barbecue and you fan the fire too much and the fire goes up, you could burn the chicken. So that's just what can you do? So too, yesh lifamim, sometimes it happens with a person, not just on a barbecue, also a person who's like a barbecue, who's like a fire. Bechinas ruach sar, sometimes there's inside of a person there's a ruach sar, there's a tremendous wind that's blowing. Mavir b'yoser, and it fires him up even too much. Chutz min amida, too much. Even we're talking about serving Hashem, way too intensely. Shezeh bechinas harisa, and this is a bechin of harisa. Harisa is, like it says in the pasuk, pen yeharsu, lest the Jews in Matan Torah, when we got the Torah, lest they destroy la'alos al Hashem, and to go up to Hashem. Because they're going to destroy, when they go up to Hashem in a time when they go too far, too close to Hashem, when it's not appropriate, so they can be burnt, they could be hurt, they could destroy what they're doing here. I mean, Stam, I've heard there are a lot of amongst the Mikubal, and there are certain practices, certain types of meditations, certain types of things that a person could try to do, which are very dangerous, and a person could use these things, and it's a bechina of harisa, and they can actually come too close to Hashem, and they can actually put out the fire. Either they could die, or they like with Rabbi Kiva before they went into the Pardes, and one of them died, one of them went crazy, and one of them became a kofar. Ki b'mufla mincha al tidrosh, and the Gemara warns us about this, and saying, don't learn and don't investigate things which are too deep for you and too far for you, too high for you. And a person, it's forbidden, it's mamash an avera, to do more and to go deeper than what is according to each person's madrega, each person's bechina. Sometimes there could be a very intelligent person, a very emotional person, a very person who's very with it. He could do a lot more. He's allowed to learn more, and he could do more, and he's able to perceive more, and he can understand more deeper, subtle things. Where a simpler person might, in trying to understand these things, might actually come to the wrong conclusions and to misunderstand things and end up doing the wrong things and doing the various because of it. So for one person, it could be mutter, for the other person, it could be asr. And certainly also, that's like just in gashmis, in intellectual or emotional intelligence. And also in spirituality, when a person comes closer and he's served Hashem a lot more, and he recognizes Hashem a lot more, so there are things that he's able to go into and start understanding and start working on, where a person who didn't do these is not allowed. Like Stam, the Madriga of Kedusha, the last Madriga of Sis Sharm, the Ramchal says very clearly that that a person is not allowed to do these Inyanim Kedusha, because if he does and he's not fitting, then he's like a Kohen serving there's like a Balmum serving in the Beis HaMikdash. We know that a Kohen or a Zar is not allowed, a stranger is not allowed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. We're not allowed to go into the Beis HaMikdash and go into the Kodesh Kodashim. We're going to offer up Korbanos. It's an Aveira for us to throw the dam onto the Mizbeach or other things like that. And if we do, it's a bechina of harisa. It's a simple person, a simple Yisrael going up to a madriga of a Kohen. He's not there. He has to first work on himself until he could achieve such a madriga of a Kohen. And obviously we can't achieve it. The pshitus, we can't achieve it. We can actually be Yisrael. Can't never become a Kohen, but we could reach the madriga ruchnius, the certain madrigas of high madrigas. That's how we do when we go up with Serv Hashem. We get higher, and then we're able to perceive more and to do more, where previously those things and those perceptions would have been a bechina of harisa. And therefore, when a person sees that this is happening to himself, and he sees that he's burning to Hashem, and he's very excited, or he's doing things which are above his level, Yeda shezeh bechinas ruach sa'ar, should know that this is not kedusha, this is ruach sa'ar, this is bad. This is something that's going to hurt him in that, and it's an aveira, it's something that's wrong. Kana Eliyahu Navi, heyachol lachni azos. He had the midah. He was able to calm this down, to calm these very strong fires, very strong wind. That lights up fires too strong, which is a bad thing. The Yitzhar sometimes dresses itself up in mitzvahs, like the Rebbe says in Torah Aleph. And the Rebbe says in a few other places about the Yitzhar trying to get a person to go farther, higher than he's supposed to. And Eliyahu Hanavi, he had the special skuli. He's able to be machnia this. Zebuchinas ish asher rochav asuse ish v'sar. And this is the Indian of the pasuk that says that he was a man. Eliyahu was a person that rode on horses of fire inside a storm wind. Shahaya rochev umachnia susei ish b'sar, that he was riding on it. He was able to It doesn't mean he was riding on and having a good time jumping over mountains, but it means that he was able to be machnia them. He was able to control them and subdue them. Dahainu ha'isha dolik beyoser min amida, and this is referring to these fiery horses, and the ruach sa'ar is referring to the fire that's burning way more than is appropriate. Sheba ayidei sa'ar kana, and this comes through the horses of fire, which is the fire burning too much, comes through the wind, through a very strong wind. He's medayik in this pasuk. Eliyahu Hanavi knew how to ride on this and to subdue this. Because the wind that a person receives has to come in a proper form. Kedei, not too strong, not too weak. In order that a person's heart should be able to be fired up to serve Hashem in the proper measurement, as we mentioned above.